What's up, Fit Fam? Coach Rye from Team Flex. Today we're going to be breaking down figure division. We're going to go over a total recap of the 2023 Olympia, go over our winners, our placings in this kind of top four zone, what the judges are looking for, what they like, what they don't, what they want to see moving forward, and what that means for you as a competitor, somebody trying to get into this, starting figure, in other words, 2024, or a well-seasoned figure athlete trying to advance your placings, get a pro card, do better at pro shows, so on and so forth. Okay, that's what we're going to talk about, and this is going to be a really good video that's going to go super in depth, so make sure you stay with me all the way through. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, we do this stuff all the time. I'm basically making content 24/7 over here to make you your best competitor, so make sure you're subscribed. I appreciate it a ton. Let's get going. So first thing you got to know, here's our kind of tier of top athletes at the Olympia. Okay, so Sydney here, she is the 7-time winner of figure. That's crazy. It's insane. You know, she just won it again. That's super awesome. And there's a lot of reasons that we're going to go over that she really kind of took the cake here. A lot of people I saw commenting and doing different stuff on social media and stuff did not think she had it this year, but I think it's kind of the untrained eye of people not really knowing what to look for in figure that is kind of made that assumption, but that's what we're going to clear up in this video, okay? We got Jessica here taking second. We got Lola on the outside taking third, and then we got Cherish over here, you know, taking fourth place, basically. And this is what we're going to look at, okay? This isn't our top 5, it's our top 4, but we're going to look at primarily the top 2. So top athletes in this division, in this call-out, are going to represent the criteria the best, okay? So here's an interesting thing. Right out the gate, we have to know about, pretty much every division, but figure especially, is we got to start with looking at the shape and the muscularity, okay? So really the shape of figure division revolves around a very accentuated V taper look. So if we look at Sid here, you know, she's got the wide shoulders, the very, very narrow waist, and the lats that are wide, and they sweep into that. It kind of ties the whole physique together. We're going to see that across this call out. We'll see that with Jessica here, you know, narrow at the waist, big shoulders, big lats, so on and so forth. We'll see that taper exemplified. So for the upper body, I mean, that's really what we're talking about. Across the board, in figure, upper body, it's about this V tapered look. The more dramatic you can make that, the better you're going to do in figure. All right, a lot of athletes that are starting, or you haven't advanced super far, or maybe not placing the way you want, you might have more of a rectangular type look. Like someone will see that as we assess these kind of call out here. We'll see a little bit of that, but really, if you have that, it's not as good as it could be, because it's all about V taper in figure. You got to have that V taper, and if you do, you're going to be doing a lot better on stage, okay? Now, that comes very specifically from training certain muscle groups. So we're talking about development of the delts, right? You got to have this fullness, this roundness, this kind of capping effect to the deltoid. It's got to happen, okay? It's not to the point where it's overdone, which is why I think Sydney, you know, again, has edged out Jessica here. Jessica's got very developed delts. When you start to get to that delt development that's looking like dramatically big, it almost starts pushing criteria a little bit, right? Like you're going into more of a woman's physique look where the muscles advance that far. You know, figure is this kind of zone where you want to have these muscles, you want to have this shape, and it's really like shape is king and queen over everything. It's not really just about getting as big as possible. It's much more about shape. You know, if you want to get bigger and bigger and leaner, you're talking about looking at women's physique, women's bodybuilding, moving up the ladder basically in leanness and muscularity. Figure is about getting that shape, getting those muscles right, and really, really accentuating the overall look to be symmetrical and just super shapely. That's really the best way to put it, okay? So let's look. So Sid here, she's got that fullness to the shoulders overall, you know, good arms that match that. You don't want to overdo the arms in this division that can distract from the deltoids, so you want to have basically symmetry from the bicep, tricep to match the delts, but you don't want to overdo it. And then, you know, really what happens here to create that V-tapered look is going to be the lats. So from here, we can see the lats very, very wide, a lot of width going out, right? And you'll see from the back a lot of depth too. That's also important. But from the front, gotta have that width. And the more width you can get here, the better. And part of that comes from obviously having trained the lats that way, but also from having this tapered waist, super tiny waist. That's really going to exemplify that look. So, you know, when we look at Sid here in this front shot, she may not look like the most muscular athlete, right? Like we can look out the call out, and it almost looks like every other athlete, at least in this shot, has bigger shoulders, right? Like bigger shoulders, maybe even bigger arms out here in fourth place. And, you know, you might look at that and be like, okay, well, they're definitely more muscular than her. They have more muscle built. They should be placing above her. No, she has won again because she still has by far the best shape and symmetry in the call out, period, right? Like, we can see that. So we look at Jessica, she's got, you know, kind of really big delts, a little bit too big, okay? And that's going to push her criteria, like I'm saying, going more towards a women's physique type look. Bigger in the arms too. The lats are more narrow though, and the waist isn't as narrow. So this is more of a kind of rectangular almost taper. It's still obviously there, but it's not as dramatic as the one we're going to get from Sid here. And that makes a big difference, okay? If we're talking about the V-tapered look being king and queen of figure division, which we'll see across the board, every pose we look at, it's all about the shape. That's going to be a big key factor. So I think that plays huge here into why, you know, Sydney here has won 7 times. And again, is our champion, our criteria to show us the figure division, okay? So V-tapers, king, queen, if you're taking notes, that's what you need, all right? Shape, shape, shape. Now let's look lower body here, okay? A lot of people were talking about Sydney's lower body, thinking her glutes were going to overpower physique. No, not really, okay? So here's the thing. With figure, you want symmetry up and down, left and right. So we want to see up and down symmetry, left and right side of the body symmetry, totally complete. So that means each muscle group's got to match, and each side's got to match there too, and everything should look very symmetrical and have that perfect shape. So when we see, you know, Sid's glutes here from the front, that's not a bad thing. It actually works really well to tie in with her lats and her shoulders and that look, right? It's giving us this almost, you know, very dramatic V-tapered look. And then, okay, we got the lower body that matches it. We're not all just upper body. We're also lower body, okay? And you'll see that here too in the quads. Right here, we got the sweeping quads. That's an effect judges want to see. They want to be able to see that across the board. And realistically, you want to make sure that you also have conditioning to show all these things. Conditioning and figure is a little bit different, right? Like everybody thinks, oh yeah, this is dramatically leaner. Yes, this is definitely leaner than bikini and wellness. It's not as lean as women's physique or women's bodybuilding, okay? Those get much leaner. When you get up there, you're talking about striations, cuts, graininess, you know, deep cuts, things like that. They don't want to see that in figure division. What you're looking for here is basically what every athlete has. You know, our 4th placer out here, she looks like she's a little too lean in the quads and the abs and so on and so forth. Maybe that's part of why she landed out there. But here you can see in the top 2 especially, right? We got the quads going on. We got separation here. This is not deep striation. This is not deep cuts, right? Like if it was, for example, you'd see a strong bit of feathering going on in the quads. Like you'd see these individual muscles. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go look at women's physique, go look at women's bodybuilding. You will see exactly what I'm talking about there. So remembering to keep that kind of balance with conditioning is key. You want to be able to show those separation of muscle groups. You want to show what you're looking for muscle-wise, delineation between the muscle groups, if you will, but not overdoing the conditioning to the point where it's looking too grainy, striated, you're seeing feathers of muscle. You know, it's just not good. So don't be looking at that. Now, let's look at the quarter turns here, okay? So again, this is where we get to really see shape is king and queen. Our athletes have moved around a bit in this call out, sits up here at front, and we're looking at everything else. So again, you know, you look at this, and people looked at this when the call outs came, and they're like, I don't think she's got it this year, you know, but she still has the shape all across the board here, better than the other athletes in the call out. Okay, so we have a lot of big shoulders in this call out, a lot of big arms, but not as symmetrical of physiques as we could, right? The balance is kind of off, all right? Sid here, you know, she's not as strong in the quarter turns, but she's strong in the front and the back where it really matters, and that's the thing. But even here, she's going to show this crazy sweep of the lat, narrow at the waist. I mean, this, again, that's our tapered look we're talking about, right? When we look at some of the other athletes, we're getting their same effect, but it's not to the degree where it's as dramatic. It's more of a kind of squared, in that sense, you know, look where the waist is wider, shoulders are wider, and obviously, you know, Jessica is the next second. She's second place here. She's got the second best taper, so on and so forth. Still a little bit too big in these shoulders and the arms, in my opinion. I think that's what kind of put her off, and she could be more narrow on the waist, okay? Now we look at Sid, she's got that shape, she's got that across the board. We're looking at the lower body too. All this ties together. A lot of people are saying her glutes were overdone, her legs were too big. No, this is muscle judges want to see in figure, okay? It's not only about just getting that taper up top. You want to be able to balance that. And so when we have the wide back and we have the wide lats and we got the, you know, the shoulders showing and we have all that tapered look up top, we want to be able to see the muscle down below that's going to match that. So that's key to have. It's a key factor for sure across the board. Let's look at the back pose now, because everything is always one from the back in bodybuilding in pretty much every division. And this is where it takes the cake, right? Because we're really looking at, from the front. Again, we're changing positions, everybody, if you're not paying attention. First shot is more accurate here for the back shot. But basically, here's, Sid here. And there's Jessica there, so on and so forth. So we really just need to look at this from the sense of, okay, very comparable backs from the start, right? We got Sydney here with the shoulder showing what they want. We got the lats sweeping into the waist, what they want. And now in the back, this is where they really look a lot at the depth of the back, okay? So it's not just about getting wide, it's about creating depth. And that's what all this separation here you see is. This is from creating density, right? Delts back here, traps, scaps, all coming together. Everything tying in. That depth of the back is really key. And so it's pretty comparable here looking at this, Sid with, Jessica in this sense. And that's really good. Jessica almost looks like in some parts she has a little bit more muscularity and a little bit more depth. But again, the shape is not as good, right? So the shape here, we got the wide lats for Sid. We got the wide lats for Jessica, but she's a little bit wider in the waist, okay? Sydney's still tying that really tight waist here, which really accentuates the V-taper. And again, like I said, I think Jessica overdid the arms a bit too, to where it kind of overpowers her physique. And we do have also some asymmetry. Maybe it's just this shot, but I also saw it watching the live. She's got a little bit of asymmetry between the shoulders here. That's a big effect that's going to take some points down. Remember I said left to right, it's got to be symmetrical, right? And we're seeing these delts here. Look at it, right? You see the right deltoid here is definitely not on the same position or same par, maybe development-wise, as the left. So these kind of things come up, and they're very blatant in this division because it's a lot more muscular. And you'll see that outside in the call-out, too. Some of these athletes have that, And Sydney's pose always looks a little bit kind of off in that sense, but it's really just kind of the hair effect. She puts her hair over here, so it covers that up. It looks a little weird, but, she's very symmetrical. She has that proportion. She has that shape, rear delt, all that fullness. Key. And the arms are not overpowering. So we really get to focus on the things that create this tapered look and the depth to really show us, all right, that's figure division right there. That's the criteria. So pretty comparable in that. As we move out the call, I think it's obvious, some of these other athletes just don't have that depth of back. They don't have that width of back. But when we look here now, okay, between Jessica and Sydney, what we get to see is where the lower body really takes the cake. So a lot of people said, okay, Sid's glutes, she overdid glutes, she overdid lower body. That is literally, in this back pose, probably what has tipped her over in points, even more so over Jessica, right? So you can see here, when we look at Jessica, her upper body's very developed, got that taper, everything there, the width, the depth, all of it's cool. Lower body's not matching, okay? The lower body here, it looks, softer. The glutes don't look as developed, and, we're getting a little bit of sweep of the quad. That's good. All that's important. Hamstrings are kind of lacking muscle zone in here. We're not getting any separation really between glute and ham tie. I mean, this is not, as developed. It's not matching, in other words, right? So if we cut the screen, if you blacked this out and you looked at this and then you looked at that, it almost kind of looks like two separate athletes, and that's a conditioning thing, where your conditioning's not even. It's not going up and down. It's not going to be the same degree, where that's going to be the effect judges want to see. That's a blatant discrepancy, in other words, between conditioning and also muscularity. So we look over here at Sydney, okay? She's got the upper glute full. She's got the overall glutes full. She's got separation here. You can see literally her hamstrings, and she's still got that quad sweep on the outside. So there is our figure champion, ladies and gents. This is where it is. It's about the muscularity. It's about the depth of the muscle in the back. It's about the density across the board, and it's about making sure you have the shape, right? It's not all about just getting bigger. There's athletes in this call out, pretty much all of them, they look like they have certain muscle groups that are bigger than hers, and she's still winning, right? Like this shot exemplifies it the most to me, I think. You look at this and you say, wow, all right, she looks like the smallest athlete in the shoulders and then the arms and, even some into the legs and so on and so forth. But really, it's the shape that wins. So figure division, you're trying to figure out what you want to do. Focus on the shape. The more dramatic of a V-taper you can get, the better. The more narrow in the waist you can get, the better. The more you can get the shoulders to go outward, not necessarily add more size, but kind of expand out, the better. The more you can get your lats to sweep and width and depth, the better. That's going to be across the board. And then making sure your lower body does match that, okay? Symmetry, it's shape, it's proportion, it's figure division in those senses. And if you don't don't have that, that's going to be a problem for you going to stage. And this kind of dispels a lot too. I've been seeing on comments and I've been seeing all over social media, people talking about, you know, oh, my lower body got too developed for figure, so I had to move to wellness. That's not really, in my opinion, anything that should ever be happening, right? Like, you can see Sydney here in this call out has the most developed lower body. Like, look at this quarter turn here. Most developed glutes, most developed hamstrings, most developed quads out of any other athlete in this call out. And she's the winner, okay? She's the Olympia champion, figure division criteria champion, basically, right? So you really, if you think that that's what you had to do, you probably didn't have the right level of coaching, the right level of training, the right programming to actually attain the right aesthetic for figure, because realistically, I haven't seen anybody that needs to do that. Like, I haven't seen anybody get too bottom developed in figure and need to move to wellness. That's basically going down the chain in a sense of like, okay, where the criteria is. I mean, especially from figure where the upper body's so prominent, to go to wellness where it's supposed to be deliberately not. I would say, you know, consider different thoughts with that. And if you want to train for figure, train for figure. If you want to train for wellness, do that. But the point is, across the board, shape is everything, symmetry is everything. You do not need to go to wellness just because your lower body, you think it's more overdeveloped. I mean, across the board, this is what we're seeing echo with the criteria, and this is what's going to continue. 2024, focus on your shape, focus on your symmetry. Get as crazy of a V-taper as you possibly can. And I promise you, you will do better on stage than you can imagine. Just focusing on that. Bigger lats, bigger shoulders in the sense of projecting outward, not getting just stacking size, but actually getting that width. And, you know, narrow waist, tiny waist. That's going to be king and queen for everything you want to do in figure division, all right? So focus on that, and remember that the shape is going to win every single time. And I think that's, you know, key. So let me know what you think, you guys. Do you love the way figure's heading? Do you think she should have won? Sydney here taking her 7th Olympia title. Do you think you would prefer somebody else winning? Do you like the direction of this division? Comment below. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Coach Rye is out.